Hi guys, I'm going to start with the Mystical Shaman Oracle. We have number 23 with the giveaway. The giveaway is the gift you offer to life without attachment, without expecting anything back. You can only give what is truly yours: a smile, a nod of encouragement, a gentle touch, and a kind word. This is not giving to others what you no longer want, like the sweater that no longer fits, but gifting that which is most precious, your authentic love and genuine feelings. And they have an invitation that says to make a list of 10 people and things for which you are truly grateful. Connect with the feeling of gratitude. The giveaway comes to ask you to feel the same gratitude without needing anything or anyone to inspire it, and to share this gratitude with those you meet. As you offer thanks, your heart opens and you start realizing how much life has given you. You heal your feelings of scarcity. Open yourself to the abundance that surrounds you, and the giveaway invites you to be in the flow of life as you give freely and receive freely. I always ruin how beautiful those are with my mix-ups. One day I'll get it all beautiful, but that's all right. You get the message. And I think that's really cool. I mean, I kind of feel like that goes along with, I don't know if you watched my message yesterday, if you resonated with it, about, really receiving well and giving well, and that type of thing. Kind of like the balance of give and take. But also I feel like this also has a lot to do with scarcity again, and if you look on the bottom, we have detachment in this oracle. And now detachment, that can be so many different things, and we'll go through the reading and kind of look at what that, has to do with it, and maybe go back. But, we have the Four of Pentacles there. This column here is my column of who this represents or what the situation is, how you'll know that it's you. And this is, sometimes the Four of Pentacles can be about, security. It can be about, you have a secure foundation, but it can also be very much about holding on to things too tightly. To where, you're almost in a feeling of lack because you're afraid to let go. It's like being afraid to spend a little to have a good time with your family because you're worried about other things. Now, I'm not telling you to go into debt, but I also feel like sometimes that also is an energy that you kind of have to do. I do that sometimes. I'll be like, oh, we can't do this because we have this. And then the other times I just throw everything out the window and I just waste a bunch of money. But the point is, it's that feeling of lack and that feeling of fear. And with detachment, that's kind of in the giveaway, all this kind of makes me feel like this is somebody or a situation where there needs to be a little bit of a loosening here. A loosening of, the worry and the fear. There's a fear here. There's things that we have to accept in our life that, we have no control over. You don't have to like it, but at the same time, if it's attached to some sort of fear, we need to release that. And I think that's where, when all these things kind of come up in our life, that's where we kind of have to stop and kind of look at those things and be like, what is the issue here? Why am I feeling this way? But that's kind of maybe that resonates with somebody, maybe it doesn't, but maybe this is about a way of doing something or a way of being also. Because when we have that first column, we also have this Seven of Cups. And the Seven of Cups a lot of times is about options. It can be about being confused about so many different options and not making the right choice sometimes. But it can also be about, just having swirling thoughts in your mind. This can be lots of opportunities or lots of feelings that kind of get you mixed up in a way. And I feel like with the Four of Pentacles being something, the Pentacles being something that's kind of structurally, this could be something about your security where, we're kind of clinging on to one way of doing things. And maybe we need to look at that we have, other options in our life to kind of give us that same sense of security. So maybe that's something for somebody. But so this being the person or the situation, whether this be in a relationship, whether this be in a project or something that you're doing, or it could just be your way of being and how you're going through your life, your day-to-day and your path that you're on right now. Being that, we're talking about the giveaway, maybe we're afraid to kind of give a little in certain areas where we're afraid that that's all we have, right? Because sometimes that's it, and it really is fear. It's not necessarily that you're a selfish person, but it's I have this thing, I have this one thing, you know what I mean? Or you feel like you don't have enough in another area, and you're afraid to kind of give a little bit because that's all you have. Or if that's your only leverage, you know what I mean? Something like that. So, There's a little different twist on this message today. But anyway, so that's kind of where I'm getting with this. I feel like there's somebody who has some sort of like, they're holding on a little bit too tightly to something. There is security there. But at the same time, you're afraid to let go a little bit, kind of loosen the strings, because you're afraid that either you or the situation, there's so many feelings attached to this that you're afraid that either you're going to lose it or that you're going to make the wrong choice. So I feel like that's for somebody. And my second column, that's always kind of like what you need to focus on for good or for bad. That's kind of like, the task at hand kind of thing, or, the issue, the energy that you kind of need to work with. And so then we have the Hermit, and then we have the Nine of Wands. And if you look, we have a lot of nines here. So something is just in getting to completion, or something is just getting to the point of like a transformation. And we also have a lot of fours too. So maybe like fours and nines mean something to you. Maybe 4994, combinations of nines and fours. Maybe look into that and see if that means something to you. And then we also have the Hermit twice. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so when we have the Hermit and we have the Four of Wands as the thing that we kind of need to work on, the Hermit goes and he he does this introspection. He does this thing voluntarily. Nobody's like forcing him to go sit on a mountain or sit in a cave and like do this introspection. He does it because that's his thing, right? And then he shines the light for others when he comes out. And then, maybe that means something with somebody. The Nine of Wands, is a lot about being, standing your ground in what you believe. But it's also, I have a lot of, feelings in that one as that being kind of like protected in a way too. But you're also kind of like the protector. This is somebody who is very standing firm in their belief system, somebody who stands firm in who they are and what they need to, what they feel they need to do or what they believe. But this is somebody very firm in that. And I always feel like wands are very spiritual. So that being said, maybe somebody needs to kind of like look at that. Maybe we're being a little bit too like firm. And maybe we need to let a little, options in as far as like our belief system. Maybe this is me. No, I'm the other way. I like include all of the things. I've gotten to where I've forgiven the twin flamers and the Christians that, kind of do that overboard stuff. So I'm good there. But maybe this is somebody that, maybe, you're kind of like standing your ground a little too hard on something and you need to kind of step back into that a little bit. But this also could be stand your ground in what you believe. Maybe there is something that, you need to be a little bit firm about, and it has something to do with your inner wisdom, something that you're, a strong belief that you understand, or maybe there's something that you see that somebody else doesn't in a situation. I feel like this is more about you kind of need to look at what you're being so firm about, especially because we have those Four of Pentacles over there, and then the detachment and the giveaway. So this kind of feels like somebody needs to kind of look in and kind of like analyze a little bit those parts of ourselves that we're kind of being so firm on. And not to say that like if you're firm on something that's the wrong thing. It's just understand where those feelings come from and what this is about. And maybe there's steps you need to take in the future too. And so what we have is an asset. Yes, I said an asset, and there is 9 of Swords there. Oh my goodness. But being this is our asset, we have the 9 of Swords, and then we have the Hermit. Lots of nines, man. I don't know, dude. You need to look into something. But yeah. So that's what 9999. Holy crap. Anyway, so nines are, there's a big, huge something. Something is ending, and it's, I feel like it's a good thing. Anyway, so the 9 of Swords, we think of that as, nightmares, and it is. It's kind of like, I always like to think of it like there's all the swords as being like mental battles that you've kind of been through. And then once you get up to the 10th one, this is my own weird way of thinking, but I always think of that as like, those are things that you've been through. Okay. And the sword is almost like a trophy. It's almost like saying like, okay, I've gotten through that. This one's done, on to the next one, whatever. And so the 9 of Swords is saying that like, that you've kind of been through that. You've gotten to that point. And I feel like, with the Hermit, yeah, okay, so it's kind of like, you've gained some wisdom from that. So this being a skill, or not skill, but like an asset that you can use in this. The Hermit, again, is wisdom. But this is wisdom from all those 9 swords, all those mental battles that you've gone through, right? And so with the first, the second column being that 9 of, your firm belief that you have, it could be because you've gained some wisdom from these 9 swords. And maybe this is why you're a little bit hesitant to kind of open up a little bit. Maybe this is why you're a little bit harsh in seeing things a different way, right? Maybe this is why you're having that defensiveness, right? So I think with the 9 of Swords and the Hermit is definitely saying, kind of like you've been through it, but look at the wisdom that you've gotten from that, okay? So that's your asset. Your asset is you've been there, done that, and you're a little bit wiser now, right? And so our last column, we have the Hanged Man and we have the 4 of Wands, which, yay, we do have the 4 of Wands here. I don't know why I thought we didn't. So that's awesome. There's all those 4s and 9s there. Check that out. So anyway, so the Hanged Man, to me, with the 4 of Wands, I feel like we're kind of being asked to kind of surrender a little bit to celebration. You kind of need to have a little bit of fun, but I also feel like this also could be looking at things in a different way. I don't like to, use the Hangman traditionally, and I don't know why I'm like that. I'm so weird about certain things. But anyway, this, I definitely feel that, though, is we're needing to look at our connections, because the 4 of Wands is the 11-11 energy. This is about, the strong familial and, togetherness we feel, and that celebrating in that, okay? So I feel like somebody needs to kind of as your advice is to kind of step back and kind of look a little bit, have some stillness. And sometimes I think it's really hard to see the stillness. And we get kind of to have the stillness, because, my life is busy, and I know a lot of you guys have busy lives too. And if you have kids, it's that adds a whole other layer, but you don't even have to have kids to be super busy. So when I talk about my kids, I'm not trying to shame anybody saying that I have more problems or whatever. I know somebody who lives by herself, has no family around her, and that woman is freaking busy, and she's way more busy than me. So, and you don't have people around you to help you with the things that you have to do. So, to say that, what I'm saying is look at the things that you do have, look at the positive things and the ways that you can celebrate, right? Just like in the giving card, what can you give to life? What parts of your life can you offer, without needing something in the end? What types of services can you do just out of the love of your heart, out of, the gratitude for the positions that you do have so much in, without needing some type of return, right? That's hard, because I have a hard time with that too. And I go home and I yell at all my kids all the time. I seem like a nice person, but I'm not mean. It's a lot. When you got 3 very active, busy, very independent girls, it's hard, dude. It's hard. But anyway, so I feel like that's what this is saying. I feel like somebody's holding on to something a little bit too tightly, out of fear, because dude, I'm there. I do that all the time. And this is a big lesson in my life I've had to learn in so many different ways, because I think the lessons that we learn, I don't think they go away. I think they just come at us in different angles so we can just master it, right? So anyway, I'm making a lot of noise, but that's what I'm doing. So my last 2 oracles, let's do that, and then I got to get back to work. I think I have to go do something. But anyway, I have number 22, Intellect, in the Santa Muerte Oracle, and I just love this. I've had this one before. So the architect of order, seen by the 6th card, can be expressed on the formation plane by the human intellect. Here is the birthplace of language, the world of ideas, knowledge where communication takes place and culture is generated. See, that's what I love. Anyway, the intellect, much like the solve referred to the god Mictellect, I ruined that, can, with his cutting action, analyze fragments of the recompose in a form of final synthesis. Holy moly, was that hard to say. Anyway, it directs and controls, but for this very reason, it can become an obstacle for an expansion and dynamism. Say that word 10 times fast. Anyway, the advice of the dead, put instinct aside for the moment and analyze the situation you are in rationally. Okay, that makes sense. So I feel like the very first card, so the person that's in this energy, this 4 of Pentacles, I'm glad that I got that card. That made me kind of realize what this is. The Four of Pentacles, you're holding on too tight because there are too many emotions attached to this thing. So yeah, there is fear, but there's fear because there's so many emotions attached to it. All right. So that's for somebody. I don't know who. And our very last card in the Herbal Astrology Oracle is number 52, Lemon Balm, which is another 7. So 4s, 7s, and 9s. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I just like to do that. But anyway, so 4, 7 is 9. So that's got to mean something to somebody. Maybe that's a phone number. But I love lemon balm. Man, do I love lemon balm. I just love the smell of it. Anyway, I took a bunch of my plants from outside in, and I'm going to try and put them in my room. We'll see if I kill them or not. But lemon balm is awesome. But anyway, it's ruled by Ceres and Jupiter. And it is the Earth Mother. Access to the ways of the Earth, planetary guardian, balance of feelings and emotions, and nurturance. Because this is about nurturing. So yeah, I feel like nurturing. Yes, this is something like, okay, somebody needs to take some time and either nurture, your connections with others, or somebody needs to maybe ask for a little bit of nurturing. I don't know. Your guidance says, give yourself permission to mother the deepest core of yourself. Listen to your inner child. Retrieve the unconscious parts of your past. Forgive yourself. Liberate the inner child that has remained silenced. Lemon balm assists in reconnecting the gentle power of nurturance. Her soft and gentle touch reminds us to connect to the Great Mother in all her shapes and forms. The medicine of a honeybee is here to serve you, prompting you to ask yourself, where can I soften and receive? How can I access my inner child to access a greater wholeness? Honeybee symbolizes the magic of nectar, vitality, prosperity, and the great inner and outer wealth that is ahead. Okay, so yeah, I mean, and it's fear. We have fear. Fear is such a dumb thing, but it is. I mean, I do think that, like, it has its purpose if it's used, to teach us something and it help us be more aware. But, like, if a lot of times it's also a tool to kind of remind us, like, of those areas that we need to strengthen in ourselves. So, and in the first card, we talked about, giving a gift. But I don't know, whoever resonated with yesterday's message, that's a big thing too, is really honoring that receiving. And if you remember, I talked about how, receiving is a gift too. If you're not accepting somebody's love because maybe it doesn't show up how you like it, or you're not accepting the way somebody does something for you because you don't like the way that you're doing it, and maybe there's a lot of fear. I think a lot of times we lash out or we do certain things, because I know I do. And when I say these things, I want you guys to know that, like, I do not think that I am above anybody. A lot of the insights that I feel like I get is from my own experience and the things that I am either been through, I am still struggling with, and probably will still deal with later on in life and in the future, right? These are things that we are working on together. So, I strongly feel like somebody is really, like, holding on to something because that's, like, what they have. That's their security. I was going to cry, so it kind of makes me feel sad. So maybe somebody's really having a hard time with letting go of kind of having that control and that security within themselves. Allow themselves to be open. And, when we talk about, like, in that first card, giving a gift because you don't want something in return, I don't think it's in a way because you're selfish. It's more that, like, you're trying to protect your own heart, whoever you are. Anyways, I hope this meant something for somebody today, and I want to give you a big hug. If you listen to Arthur Astrology, he just kills me. He always says he's going to give you a spinny hug. I like that guy. He's funny. But anyway, that was out of nowhere. But maybe that meant something to somebody. I will talk to you guys later.